Hello, and welcome to our second NCAA Baseball Umpiring Rules Video Bulletin for the 2004 season. My name is Dave Yaste, and I serve as the National Coordinator of Umpires for the NCAA. This month, we'll view some plays from recent college games, as well as some games from last year's NCAA Division I Championship. We will view some plays that caused a lot of questions, as well as some umpiring mechanics. Let's start with a couple pitching violations. Here, the right-hand pitcher breaks his front knee as he throws to first base. It could also be argued that he does not gain ground toward first base with his free foot. This was correctly called a balk. In this second clip, you'll see the left-hand pitcher attempt a pickoff throw to second base. His free foot, his right foot, does not end up on the other side of the rubber, the second base side of the rubber, and therefore this is a balk. In these next few clips, you'll see something that's been observed by many of us over the last few years as a developing trend. It appears as if runners are being taught when coming back into first base on a pickoff throw to come back on the inside and therefore either making contact with the first baseman or possibly interfering. There seems to be no other justification for this movement than to try and interfere. If a base runner is truly trying to avoid being tagged out, they would not be coming back on the inside portion where they'd be easily tagged. You'll see a clip here at the end with the runner coming back to the outside. Our point in showing you this is that this can be called interference if they do make contact with or in any way hinder or impede the first baseman fielding this throw. Good preventive officiating here, a first base umpire if he's positioned there or a base umpire in the middle could say something to this runner and tell them they must come back fully within the 15 inches of the base. Both feet must come back within that area. An observation that I've heard from quite a few umpires and coordinators already this season is that batters are stepping across home plate on a steal, whether they've swung at the pitch or not. I was able to go back and look at video from last year's regional and super regionals at the Division I level and find a couple of plays that showed this. In this case, the batter steps across home plate and our plate umpire correctly points and says, "That's interference." The runner from first is thrown out at second base. Therefore, the interference is ignored. This clip also shows a batter on a steal play, swinging and missing, and stepping across home plate. Interference should be called here. Please note, this does not have to be intentional. The batter is required to stay within the batter's box. Second of all, there does not have to be contact for there to be interference. When ruling on a play like this, I believe the benefit of the doubt has to go to the defensive team, and interference should be called. Now we'll turn our attention to some umpiring mechanics. In the three-umpire system, we often are forced into rotating to cover different bases. Here's a good example of how it should look. Please note in the one section where we see our middle umpire, which is our third base umpire, sliding back to first base, and our first base umpire rotating the home plate as soon as R1 touches and commits to third base. At the end of this play, note that all three umpires have rotated and are in their correct positions for any possible plays. A common mistake in rotation situations is for the first base umpire to commit to and advance to home plate before R1 has committed to third base, thus leaving first base uncovered. In this example, we see our first base umpire in a perfect position to still rule on plays at first base or get to home plate if necessary. Here's a good example of the new mechanic for 2004. With a runner on first base only and a fly ball hit to right field, our first base umpire goes out on the ball. Our third base umpire, positioned in the middle, slides over for the throwback to first base. Good hustle by umpires is often discussed. Normally, we talk about when a ball is alive, when we need to get from one position to another. It's just as important, and sometimes more important, to hustle when the ball is dead. Here are a few very, very good examples. I found two good examples of the wrong way and the right way to take the steal at second base. Note that we start on the shortstop side. As the ball is coming to second base, we should take 2 or 3 quick short steps and be stopped when the play happens. This first umpire is still moving, even though the play doesn't develop because of the wild throw. In the second play, our middle umpire takes 2 short steps and is stopped when the play happens. Our last examples for this month are on timing. Note the first base umpire in these 2 plays. First, a close play in which he calls the runner safe. Notice his timing. He waits for everything to happen and then sells the call appropriately. In the second play, same thing. Has an out play. Waits, makes the call, gets it right. That concludes our second video bulletin for the 2004 season. On behalf of the Baseball Rules Committee, Chair Dennis Womack, and the Division I Baseball Committee, Chair Charlie Carr, we want to thank you for your time and attention today and ask you to check back in a few weeks for our next bulletin.